'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
I found out about her and was a big fan, and I couldn't find anything that was affordable. And then I got a heads up that the plaid stuff was coming out, and I was just like, oh man, that stuff's fucking rad, you know. And like, it sold out. I was on a plane flying back from Mexico with Kate, and it like literally was like I was trying to buy shit on the flight.
Yeah.
The whole thing sold out in like less than 2 minutes. You know, it's like those are $750 a piece. She had like the hand drawn actual version of that was like
right. That's like the print,
$20,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I did the same thing. There's this guy, this artist I really like that's out here, is this dude Seth Armstrong, and he does, I think it's like watercolor. I don't know if it's watercolor oil, but he does like the Hollywood Hills at like
cool.
golden hour, and I was like on an email list for his last project, and I got that. And
oh, nice.
yeah.
I also just got hip to this guy. His name is, I think it's Henry K. Or maybe it's Heinrich. I could be wrong because it's just something
Heinrich.
I found on.
Yeah.
It's like his Instagram is Heinrich Studio, and he does like this really fucking cool, big like textural like kind of things that like I was talking to him about like doing like a whole back wall for like a podcast studio. You know, like I was just like, dude, your work is so fucking cool.
Yeah, that looks sick.
Yeah. You know, like the only thing for me is I feel like you need like that kind of dust cover thing, because that would just be like a dust eater. You know what I mean?
It would definitely
like
pool on like the ridges and stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like it would start looking all fucked up. But yeah, that's just been something that I've always loved art. My family is like, my parents had a lot of art in our house and stuff. And
Yeah.
I got these off eBay, but these are CJ Henry prints. They're super cool. She like did her own version of like Banksy.
Was that when she like put them in places in the city and
Yeah.
had people go find them? Yeah.
If only we lived in Australia, we could capitalize on all this shit that she does. Because
I think she lives in Brooklyn
oh, maybe now. But yeah,
she's Australian. Yeah.
Yeah, and
she's
does
so talented.
Yeah, I honestly, that's why I wanted to try to collect more stuff from her, because I was just like, man, of all the like, I think as far as like talent goes in art, I would have to say that's the number one most impressive thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the fact that she's doing it with colored pencils.
Yeah, like the colored pencil like dollops. You see those? So that looks like she draws like a bubble, like it's like a bubble of a color, and it just looks like, you know, that old candy like when you were kids, like it had like it's just like a sheet and it has like half bubbles. It looks like that
crap candy.
Yeah. The crappiest candy.
Right.
Like it's like cardboard basically. They like spray paint over.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see.
That's Seth Armstrong stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's super cool.
This is awesome.
Yeah. And so he'll do like a collab with this gallery out of London. And he'll make like X amount of prints that he'll number and sign. So I got the last one. I would like to have a few of those though.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the originals would be, getting an original of something would be cool. But it's sick to be friends with like a couple artists out here in LA that are like really doing it. And I went down to Devin's studio the other day, and he's got a project or a show in June. And so all his pieces for the show in June were hung up, and he's like, I don't know, he's definitely on the up and up. He's selling his paintings for like big money now, I think. And it's just cool to like go into another artist's space, and that's, you know, a different medium of art, and see them do their thing.
That's why I've been collecting what I have. Like I put up in the studio, like all the different toys, like the Cause toys. I like the colors. The Bear Brick like things I picked are like Basquiat, Keith Haring, and Andy Warhol. So it's like a reminder of like, hey man, we're still making art. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, it's supposed to still be something we like creatively do and invest in. That's not just like, oh, I got to make a song that's got to be popular.
Well, they're so similar, just writing a song and painting.
Yeah.
You literally have a blank canvas, and you're just pulling stuff out of the ether.
Yep.
And then a few hours later, you've got this work of art that didn't exist. So the similarities are all over the place.
Yeah.
Especially with painting and writing a song or producing a beat or whatever. So, but yeah, it's cool to like also see that world, and then, you know, maybe merge the two at some point. Like if I get to a level ever where like I can be like, yo, Devin, like do the single art or something.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do, I still haven't like really gone back to the idea to finish it, but wanted to do a 10-year anniversary album for Truth,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually reached out to CJ Henry on Instagram, and I was just like, hey, like,
Yeah.
what would it take to like commission you to like do the cover art for this? Because like that would be a dream,
Right.
you know. And she was just like, oh, I'm working on other things right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, dude, that
worth
and
shooting the shot, and then
Yeah.
down the line, it's like if something, something pops off, you get to another level, and then you're at a cocktail party or whatever, and then it's like, oh, I've been a fan of you forever, and then that conversation starts where it's like, oh, you've had this like personal experience or meeting with one another, and then it's
it's hard to fire a shot on like a DM and
right.
just be
It's
like,
oh, we have like a rapport now,
yeah,
and it's like you're validated by being in the same space as me or whatever it is, and
yeah, I just
rubbing elbows with the same people.
I mean, I very much would love to collaborate with like artists for the cover art kind of thing. I think that's just such an awesome way to bring it together.
What's your take on like NFTs?
Oh, buddy, I have bought every hand grenade in the NFT market that you can imagine.
Like a Bored Ape type thing?
No,
hand
literally.
grenade?
Like,
just things that suck. Like
absolutely, just like I bought these things and I was like, oh man, this is cool. This is a cool story. This is cool art.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck did you guys just do?
Right.
You know, like
scam. Such a scam.
Oh, so many, man. I mean, I've been in crypto pretty heavily for 4 or 5 years. Like, maybe even longer. Like 2017, I guess, was like the first time I got into it, and I was like, you know, my mom loves the stock market. My grandpa loved the stock market. My mom and my grandpa were like, my grandpa was, my mom is very much a buy, hold for forever kind of person. And it's the smartest fucking way you can do that shit. And I just, lost my ass and like,
it's not as exciting.
It's not as exciting. You know, you're not buying the highs and selling the lows, which I was doing.
Yeah.
You're not buying the highs and selling the lows, which is the opposite of what you want to do.
Right.
You want to sell the highs and buy the lows. So I was doing the full opposite for a long time because I was just like...
just losing money left and right.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah, literally. It's a South Park episode.
Yeah. And we're just going to put your money into a cross-platform mutual fund, and it's gone.
Yeah. That's how it feels sometimes with crypto. I mean, I had some things that for a moment were worth a lot.
Yeah.
Like I invested like 120 grand into this company, Gala Games, which like makes... Basically, like, I like playing video games. I love playing Call of Duty. I thought like the way that the tools for building, like owning parts of your video game and being able to resell them to other people was like amazing concept. I don't know why we haven't done that already. Like people would buy and sell Fortnite skins for a fucking ton of money if they allowed that to be a thing, but they don't. Or like Call of Duty guns. If it's like, oh, you built out this gun this way, like, dude, I just got lasered by this guy. Can I buy his gun? I'll give him $50. Fuck it. Like, if it was possible. So this company seemed to be like leading the way, and a lot of the guys that were from that company came from Zynga, which was like the biggest mobile game builder of all time.
They did like on my phone. I have a
Candy,
bunch of phone
or
game,
they did Farmville and all that.
Phone
like
games by Zynga.
Yeah, exactly.
Zynga.
So it was like, okay, cool. This seems like a for sure fucking win.
Right.
And I dumped a bunch of money into this game, and I was playing this game that was like, you earn coins from this game for using these NFTs inside the game, and they give you benefits. So I was like, oh, sick. Like, that concept is great. I love it. And then they, whether or not it's true or not, had a bunch of people that were cheating, and they didn't really do anything about it. They kind of just gave them like a fake slap on the wrist. And they were like taking those NFTs and like sending them to like 5 different accounts a day.
Right.
So they could like cash in like 5 times
what
what
I heard about that actually.
And then they basically like crashed the price of the coin. Like at one point I was basically looking at like making,
they like,
I think it was
pump
like
and dumped it.
It was like $1,000. I was like looking at making like $1,000 a day from playing a video game.
Right.
And I was just like, cool, I'm about to retire. Like, I spent all this money on all this shit. And then they basically said like, there's been cheaters in this fucking game. We're going to have to close this whole thing off. And I was just like, you got to be fucking kidding. Like, this is like pretty much all worthless now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm too dumb to get into any of it, so or too much of a pussy to try it. So I haven't dipped my toe into the crypto world. But.
I mean, I haven't really found, like, I like physical, tangible art.
Yeah, same.
And I like the idea of NFTs. It's like, oh, you can display it online. You can like sell it to other people, but it doesn't really like live in my house and I like look at enough screens that I don't really want to keep looking at more screens to like see my art.
Right.
Like I like the fact that I have like a physical thing
Yeah,
I can look at
absolutely.
and be like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, this print is, there. It's physical. It hangs on a wall. It's not like a screen that's fucking with my eyes.
There is something about the NFTs though that definitely seem like it's got legs. Like my buddy, I got to figure out what this company's called. My friend's friend started this thing. It's like these dinosaurs.
Huh.
No, but it's like they're trying to make it Claynosaurs.
Okay.
Have you heard of these?
No.
And they're like killing it. They just had like, it was just like NFT week here in LA, and they had like some event that was like sold out. Like they're crushing it. But basically it's like a universe they've created with these characters, these dinosaur characters, and it looks like, they made, there's like,
oh shit,
it's like
it's like
all
it's
the same. Yeah, it's like it's actually ex Pixar
looks like
animators.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking like massive big picture, like making it like a huge franchise with a movie and actual merchandise that you can buy, and
totally.
But it all exists in this
NFT
space
world. Yeah.
But they're like really, like, I think in terms of companies that are actually going to do something, I think they're actually on like the precipice of really making something happen.
I hope so, man. I mean, I love the idea of the space, and I love the idea of crypto. Like, I like the idea of money being like not like, I love the idea of a world currency because I just like to travel, and I think it's just like, sweet. This would be great if I literally just have like a tap my phone thing. It just goes to my whatever Bitcoin or some other shit, and I can just keep it pushing. I like the idea of that a lot because I just don't care for like pretty much any government in the world or any of that stuff. To me is just like,
Yeah, no, they don't seem like
they don't seem
like they're in favor of the people.
Yeah, I would 100% say that. So, yeah, I mean, I like it, but I've literally burned like all 10 fingers and all 10 toes trying to be a believer.
Yeah, all of your free cash is now
gone. Yeah,
destroyed.
Okay, so let's jump into normal way I start with this thing is, what's your full name?
Dave Ryan Cuncio, but
we're dropping the Cuncio.
Yeah, we're just Dave Ryan.
Okay.
It's more palatable, more digestible.
Where are you from?
Wyckoff, New Jersey.
Okay.
Bergen County.
What was it like growing up there?
Great.
Yeah?
Phenomenal upbringing. Yeah, it's a great place to live. It's like a suburb of New York City.
Okay.
Pretty solid childhood.
What kind of stuff were you into as a kid? Were you
sports.
Okay.
For sure. My dad was an athlete, so from a pretty early age I was like heavily involved in sports. My summers consisted of playing baseball.
Okay.
From, I don't know, mid-April till the end, like until school started in September. So yeah, it was pretty much all sports, and even till I mean that's what got me into college. It was always
shit.
Yeah.
So it was like a potential
oriented
career.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kicker in high school, but we had a really solid program, and I did well in high school, and that got me into college, and but yeah, that I just got burnt out in college and injured and was just overwhelmed. Yeah, and so
the reality of athlete life kicks in. You're
but
like, wait a second.
Music was always like as intertwined as sports. Like, if I wasn't going to practice, I'd come home and then play guitar and jam until I went to sleep, which is, I think, a pretty common sort of trajectory for most people in music. That's kind of, you have to kind of be obsessed with it. So yeah, I just loved like learning songs. When I figured out like tabs, that like opened the floodgates. Yeah, and so I just wanted to learn every Blink-182 song and every Nirvana song. I don't know, just like the classic guitar, when you first pick up a guitar and you get into guitar type music, Jimi Hendrix, and that was it. I don't know, been hooked ever since, honestly. Yeah, there's nothing I like more than just coming up with a cool riff, or like just strumming around and being like, that could be something. That has never left. I've always enjoyed that. And like seeing like, something that just fluttered in, became something, and then turned into a song, and it's out for everyone to hear. Yeah. The process is amazing. Yeah. It's just, it's, I don't know, I feel very special to be a part of it. Yeah. I mean, dude, I was listening to the Rent song we made forever ago, and just like
listening to your guitar solo on that, and it was just like, oh man, this guy fucking kicks ass at playing guitar. Like, you're really fucking good, dude.
Oh, thank you. And I don't think I'm that good at all. I definitely like I know a few tricks and whatever I can, but I'm pretty inside the box. I think I'm limited in my like theory and knowledge in terms of like really ripping a guitar solo, but sometimes I think like the lack of talent for some people,
it's lack of knowledge.
Helps.
It's definitely not a lack of talent.
Right. No, okay. But yeah, the lack of like maybe the theory and the knowledge behind what to do and instead just more like winging it.
Yeah.
Can sometimes work to your advantage, because like I'll see incredible musicians or like on TikTok or Instagram, people that are like shredding, and it's like, but like
you get tired.
What are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
Like no one wants to really hear that. So
yeah, I
don't know. I grew up pretty much listening to pop music, like the general term, like whatever was popular throughout the decades, and so I think I don't know, that paired with my knowledge of guitar playing and whatever has allowed me to make songs that can span across genres or get cuts in multiple genres of music. And
yeah.
So it's been cool, and it has, there's been ups and downs for sure.
Yeah.
It hasn't always, I mean, my career has not been like a lot of people that were in my like class, I guess, when I first moved out to LA or whatever. There's people that I worked with that are now like massive songwriters. So my path has not gone the same way up until now, but still had some cool some cool moments, and I think I've got a few more ahead of me. So I haven't lost faith.
Yeah, no, you got a ton. So let's jump back to grew up in
Wyckoff, Jersey, home of the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Were you same age? Was that like a thing, or
they were like homeschooled, or I think they were involved in entertainment, I think, pretty early on. So they weren't like part of the public schooling system that I was.
Right. They were Disney kids or something?
Yeah, and I think they just went to a different school and were probably going in and out of New York City auditioning, and I don't think their childhood was as normal, I guess, as me and my friends. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that I remember when they started to blow up in like their teenage years, and I remember seeing them at like Dairy Queen one day, and I was like, those are the Jonas Brothers. But I've never met them, or like, never saw them growing up or anything like that. It was more after the fact, being like, no shit, they're from
where I'm from.
They're from my town.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it was a very nice childhood. Like, I look at me, I'm like, I didn't really grow up on the streets or anything like that. I'm pretty, stereotypical.
Did you travel
New
a lot?
England, northeastern upbringing.
Like, did your family travel when you were younger?
Yeah, like my grandparents lived in Florida.
Okay.
We'd go down there. My other set of grandparents lived in upstate New York, and Vermont. We'd ski in Vermont. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're a traveling family.
Nice.
Yeah, we like to go places for sure.
You have siblings?
Yeah, older sister and a younger brother.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, I'm the middle child.
Nice. You guys close?
Yeah, we have a good relationship for sure.
Anybody do music as well? Anybody in your family do music?
No, my dad played the drums. Like my grandma played piano. My grandfather was always singing on my mom's side. But no, nobody wanted. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm the same way. I didn't come from any kind of family history in music. I wish. Like, I have friends that I talk to, and they're like, man, our whole family gets together. We have jam sessions on Saturday. It's like my cousins, my uncles.
I would have thought my little brother would have gotten into music too, but no. I wasn't ever able to start a family band.
Yeah.
Like the Jonas Brothers.
It just sounds like, to me, such an awesome like lifestyle of just being like, oh shit, like we could just jam, like you and me could just go play this, and then he can come in and we can sing, and we can all, like that.
There's I mean, you look at the history of like music, there's a lot of bands and that are family, like brothers and sisters and cousins or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I was kind of envied that. Or the Bee Gees or any
Kings
of those guys.
Leon, like there's a bunch. The Bee Gees. There's a lot of like the Jacksons,
Beach Boys, like literally, like
pretty much all like the
superstar
massive,
mega,
yeah,
the powerhouse bands.
Yeah, so Meg and Patty did not want to be involved in my musical endeavors.
It's never too late.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they'd really like to join now.
So let's go through. What was your first job?
My first job was I worked at the local ski resort.
Okay.
We have this little hill, Camp Gone Mountain, about 10 minutes from my house.
Nice.
And I would do I would work the lifts.
Lifty. Yep.
But I also gave snowboard lessons.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to throw that out there every time someone's like, "Oh, I snowboard." I'm like, "I used to give lessons, so you might want to come with me." And then another high school job I had was I worked at the YMCA with my best friend Nick. We did birthday parties. We hosted children's birthday parties, which were a blast because the ages were like, on the low end 4, and then on the high end like 9, I guess. And you just like play games and entertain them for like 9-year-olds. Shit age. They're bad age. They're not. They're like little. They're terrors. 4 or 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds even cool. But once you get in that 8 and 9, like they think they know shit, and they've got these weird like spazzy personalities, and you're just like, shut up. What the fuck are you doing? You're not cool. But I probably was like that. I want to, when I was 8 and 9, I don't know. Me and my friends thought we were so dope when we were that age. So yeah, we can't really fault them too much. You just got to hope that the parents are cool, and that by the time they reach adulthood, they've figured it out
a little bit.
Yeah, figured it out somewhat. But who knows? You always got to look at the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What came after the YMCA?
After the YMCA, now we're getting into college. I was a janitor at a country club, which I got fired from. I got fired from that job, which I thought that was a pretty low point, because I was like, historically the janitor's not really looked at as a great job or whatever, and you'd think anyone could do that job, but not me. I was, I guess, not good at it. And so I remember they fired me, and I was like, it was my summer job, and they fired me kind of like I still had a few weeks left before I went back to college, and I didn't want to like tell my parents that I had gotten fired. So like for 2 weeks, I kind of just would wake up to go to work, and then I'd like go to Barnes and Noble and like read books until it was like an appropriate time to like kind of come back. Or like I'd hit up my friends that weren't working that day or whatever and go hang out with them, smoke weed and shit.
That's fucking great.
Yeah, classic. Just scamming. And then after that whole debacle, the following summer, me and my best friend Eric, I have 2 best friends at home. We were kind of in the same position. We're like, fuck working for the man. We don't do this shit. And so we started this home improvement company as a window washing company.
Okay.
Called Let's Go Streaking, No Streaks Window Washing and Home Improvement. So our main thing was window washing, but we also would do like deck staining, power washing, gutters, pretty much any sort of like home maintenance thing, clean up shit, whatever. But we like kind of positioned it as like 2 young studs in college. We both went to really good schools. So like we made this flyer with us like standing like back to back. And like we put like where we were going to school, and we just like peppered like all like the wealthy neighborhoods in the area, and like basically our goal was to have like hot moms that were bored, like kind of like the pool boy fantasy.
Yeah,
that was kind of our.
I kind of went there
our
with
mission,
when you started
our
talking
mission
about
statement.
It. Yeah.
But yeah, it was the best summer ever. It was all cash business, and I don't know. I constantly had dough on me. We made our own hours. We'd go down the shore whenever we wanted. Like, it was pretty fucking sick. So that was a very fond summer. That might be the best summer in my, I guess, young adulthood.
Yeah,
for sure. And then I got into music shortly thereafter, like that following year. And
what was Jersey Shore like when you were? Was that somewhere that you would go, like carnival games, all that kind of stuff? I went there once when I was like a teenager, and I cleaned house on the 3-point shot game. And
the big one, like the tall.
The big one. And I have a nephew. I hate to say autistic. It's like such a blanket thing that I'm not great with, but he, like, basically, like, I went and just fucking crushed it, and I went off on my own. Yeah. Or maybe my aunt was with me. I think my Aunt Patty was with me, and I like won 3 out of 4 times.
Right. So they were
these like big stuffed animals.
Yeah.
And the guy was just like, no, like you can't, because literally it was so
clearing
weird.
out our inventory.
I would just be at home and just drill like shooting 3-pointers. That was just it. So I was
made for this moment.
Yeah, I was, and I stepped up and I fucking crushed it. And it was awesome because I got to give him like 4 of these fucking huge stuffed animals and just be like, oh man, Jersey Shore. Yes, this was a great memory.
Oh yeah, no, it's a magical place. It's just, I don't know, every summer pretty much spent down there. So, you know, people like to knock it or whatever, but it's really nice. Honestly.
Dude, it's awesome.
Like,
I mean, I know the show gave it a bad rap or whatever, but it's a fucking awesome place.
No, it's solid for sure. Although, I mean, I you know, once I got older and met people from like New York City, Long Island, and learned about like the Hamptons and like that area, Montauk, that's
changed things.
Yeah, that's kind of like,
I've never been up there.
It's the best. It's so nice.
Just like paradise level.
Literally,
living,
like not a blade of grass is out of place, and like, it's perfect. It's pristine, and you know, that's if you could go anywhere to a beach, at least in the tri-state area, the Hamptons are
where you go,
top notch.
Hey,
but they don't got that grit that the Jersey Shore has, you know?
Yeah.
There's no dirty boardwalk where you can get a cheesesteak and an ice cream cone and be hammered at the same time. It's just like some odd-looking fella, you know, just gangs of people, and you don't know if something's going to pop off or not, and you got your classic, you know, Jersey Shore Italians that are down there that are just still living the dream, so.
Yeah.
It's a special place, I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So then music started to kick up?
Yeah.
Was that, how did you get into it? Like, was it, I mean, obviously I know like, okay, you started playing guitar and you started getting like tabs and just learning at home, but what was like the point of what, or was there like a memorable point of like, oh, I'm going to go after this as like a career? And what was like the way you wanted that to unfold?
There was like a few things like, athletics was always like kind of like the driving force behind, I guess, what the future held. But, I remember I was a freshman, in high school, and there was this like male beauty pageant that they threw called, I went to the public high school my freshman year. It was called Ramapo High School, and they had this talent show male beauty pageant thing called Mr. Ramapo, and my homeroom teacher was like the organizer of it, like the head of it. And so she was like, since I'm the head of it, someone from this homeroom has to do it. And everyone was like, Dave. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. So there was like a fashion portion, like a Q&A, and a talent portion.
Okay.
And I was a freshman, and this was a all grade event. And so I was like, all right, I was like really into guitar at this point. And so I decided to play, for my talent portion of the thing, I decided to play Bubble Toes by Jack Johnson. And just brought the house down. and I won. I didn't win the whole thing, but I won best performance. So I won like $100 for the best performance. But like people went nuts, and I was like, I like that feeling. I like the response I just got. But the thing is, the performing was kind of very few and far between. I did another thing in college that went really well that I won. But like, not to like brag out I'm winning these talent shows or anything. It's like
the high school circuit just fucking crushing talent shows.
Yeah, and like it wasn't like the competition was stout, but it was always like, you know, like people enjoyed music that I played or made. So I don't know. I thought I was good at it. I thought I could make like catchy shit. So I just thought it was so cool. I thought there's nothing cooler than like music.
Yeah.
So, like sophomore year of college, I was hanging out with a bunch of kids from New York City, and they were telling me about this dude that was in their frat who like left to go to LA, sign a record deal, all this shit, and his name was Freddie Wexler, and so they told me about him, and I like went back and like just like dug up as much as I could on the guy. Like he had a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and I just like thought like, wow, this is so sick that like a kid from my college or whatever is pursuing music and doing it. And so I was just like fascinated by it. And then the next year, he's in one of my classes, and I'm like, "Are you Freddie?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm Dave. I play football, but I'm into music, and like I've heard a lot about you." And he was like finishing school, I guess, and we just became buddies. And then he was older than me, and so he graduated, and then he had moved out here to LA and was like, "Hey, I'm starting a publishing company, and I want to sign you." And so I just moved out like 3 weeks after I graduated.
Crazy.
Came out here and kind of just like got into it, and within like 6 months or a year had my first cuts like on a major label, like with a Disney artist. And it was kind of off to the races, and had some other things happen. Had a big Selena Gomez hit, and
I forgot about that. That's crazy.
It's been like 10 years since that came out.
But that was like,
but yeah, that like, you know, that kind of
at
least started. I started making an actual living off music, and I don't know, just have kind of kept going ever since, and have worked with a bunch of cool artists in different genres. And then I got thrown into the country music scene in 2016, started doing that, and then moved down to Nashville about 3.5 years ago. But yeah, I don't know. It's been like I've had cuts here and there in the past, the past few years, but I haven't had like a big hit recently. So
yeah,
then you start to play with those emotions where it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, it was cool when I was younger. Now I'm getting older, and my friends are very established in their careers, and they're very comfortable and seem to have their lives figured out, and like I'm still just trying to see what the next hit's gonna be, or what's gonna bring me the next lump sum check or whatever to continue. It's a interesting way to live. It's exciting, but it's not like, it's very stressful to kind of weigh the pros and cons of like chasing your dream and doing things unconventionally, or just playing it safe and getting paid every 2 weeks. And so that constant push and pull is sometimes difficult. But honestly, I'm too deep in the game at this point where it's just like, fuck it. Like, it's go time.
What else can you do?
Yeah, at this point, and I don't know. It just, you have to really listen to like the universe, and like, I don't know, and look at like serendipitous moments as like, okay, this is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. As long as you have like that eternal flame in you that like is pushing your dream and your passions, and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, you have to keep chasing it down.
You can't do anything else.
And
I think even if you made a lot of money, I think if you made a lot of money doing something else, you'd just be like, fuck, but
yeah, exactly.
What if, like it doesn't have the same joy that like this has when you're doing it with.
Well, and it also consumes you 24/7. I feel like people that get regular jobs, and they might enjoy their line of work, but I feel like they compartmentalize their lives where it's like, all right, my 9 to 5, I go to work, I'm this person, and then I get home and I can decompress and be, more
someone else, or more
more off the cuff or whatever. Yeah. Whereas like this, it's like it consumes you. It's like there's only one way to be.
Yeah.
And you just have to fully just immerse yourself in it. And that's why it's like tough with like relationships or anything like that, where it's like you're competing with my dream. Like, and I would love to make time for X, Y, and Z, but like this requires majority or all of the focus until I feel like I've done it, or I've gotten to the place where now I can, step back, let's reevaluate things. But the climb, it's like you can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, at least, I can't really focus on anything else. I'm just so driven by like what I envision.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. And so, I don't know. Until that happens, I don't see me really changing my approach to my life. But I think we're on the cusp of some really cool shit. So
you for sure are. I mean, with all the experience that you have and all the music you've written and produced for other people to now be. So have you released music? Have you talked about like releasing music as your own artist self yet? Has that been something you've done like at all?
No.
So this is like all. Yeah. Then Cherry Cola is really like the first song of like the Dave Ryan
chapter.
Artist.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fucking exciting, man.
Yeah, it is. It's honestly like it. Nothing has gotten me more fired up than kind of seeing this come to the surface. It's been a really long time. That's always been the goal. Like, I didn't even know really songwriting was a thing until I got into it. And so, but like ever since I was little, I've always wanted to be like a rock star. Just I wanted to be the guy.
Yeah.
And then found out about the songwriting world and like, you can kind of live a rock star life and not be in the spotlight or anything like that, which is very attractive and a very nice situation to be in, which I've experienced, and it's very enjoyable. I just think for me, like, I remember when I first moved out to LA, I was like, if I don't hear my song on the radio by 25 or whatever, I'm going to stop doing music. And like, actually it ended up happening, but I remember when it did happen, I was like, okay, like now what?
Yeah.
And it's always kind of been like that. You get very excited or you really hype things up, and then they do happen, and then you're like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting myself to respond. I thought that'd be like over the moon, but then it's just like, all right, well, life goes on. So now what? You got to,
Yeah.
It's cool every time it happens, but I don't know. It's just for me, it's like that's not doing it. It's, I still have this other route that I'd like to pursue. So I just feel like now is kind of the time to just do it.
Yeah.
Say, fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's see if people like it. And at least I can be like, I did it.
Yeah.
I put it out there.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And it's like starting to come to fruition in terms of like the music getting done.
Yeah.
And kind of the ideas coming together. And so we'll see. I mean, there's really so much you can do, and you just got to hope that
people like what you give them.
Yeah, and it comes out at the right time. Like, I feel like timing is so crucial. But like, how can you know?
You can't.
So it's just
it's this brutal fucking thing. We're trying to all throw darts at like a wall with like 7 blindfolds on, earplugs in. It's like you're spinning around and you're just like, fuck, man, I really hope that I actually like land the fucking thing in the right moment of all that other shit happening.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, I think, in like everything happens for a reason, and like fate and just being able to recognize certain moments that where like a light bulb goes off where it's like, oh, okay, this was meant to happen. And I've got a song that I wrote called Meant to Be, and it's pretty much like that, where it's just like, I'm going down this path, and if it doesn't lead to where I think it's going to lead, then I guess it's just not meant to be. Like, that's, so that's why I feel like putting out music is the first step in seeing what the result's going to be. And if I don't do it, I'm never going to at least know. So that's kind of the mindset I'm going into it with. And, I think the response will be good. I think it's just more just like getting it in front of as many ears and eyes as possible. So
yeah. What was the original? So like timing wise, like was a difficult time period going through COVID in Nashville? Like, was the music scene still happening? Or
I had built a pretty good network for like the 3 years prior to moving there. I was just making like quarterly trips. And so I moved there right before COVID, and it was great. I like kind of hit the ground running. I was writing a lot and doing songwriter rounds with other songwriters in town, and kind of just like immersed myself fully in the whole scene. And then COVID hit, and it went to like this Zoom sort of world where we were writing over Zoom. And I think just not being with like a publisher or like not having any sort of team.
Yeah.
It kind of just like faded in terms of like continuing that rat race. I kind of was just like, and then about a year into the pandemic, I got thrown into the comedy world with a song like a joke song that I wrote. And so that kind of started its own little life. And I've been kind of doing music and some comedy stuff with comedian friends of mine here and there. But
how'd that all come about?
So when the pandemic started, I moved down to Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, no
with
way.
Some buddies from New York. Yeah, they were like, yo, it's getting bad up here, and we're thinking of like renting a house down south. Like, are you down to join? And I was like, yeah, I could do that. Sounds pretty good. And I was in Nashville, and like Nashville's like pretty chill the entire time. Like they stayed open. But I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And then like basically just like got talked into joining this house, and we were supposed to be there for like 2.5 weeks. We were there for like 2.5 months, and but one of my buddies walked out one day when we were down there. He had an Andrew Schultz hoodie on, and he's a pretty big comedian at this point, Andrew. And I was like, oh, you're a fan of Schultz? He's like, that's my best friend. And I was like, no shit. And so like the whole time we were there, my buddy Marco was texting back and forth with Schultz. And fast forward a year later, I'm driving by the comedy club Zanies in Nashville, and I see Andrew Schultz this weekend sold out. And so I text Marco, I'm like, yo, your boy's headline this weekend. Can you like get me on the list? And he was like, sure. And then 2 minutes later, he's like, you're good. And then like 2 minutes after that, he's like, yo, Andrew wants to write a song with you. And I was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, that sounds okay, sweet. He's like, I'll put you on text with him. So like I get on text with Andrew, and he's like, yo, like, could we do this? And I was like, hell yeah, dude. What do you want to do? And he's like, I've got this travel vlog that I do for my YouTube channel where every city that we go to, we do something that's like akin to the city that we're in. And so I figured we're in Nashville, we should write a song, a country song or whatever. And then I was like, okay, sick. And then he's like, do you know who Jelly Roll is? And I was like, yeah, I know who Jelly Roll is. And so he's like, all right, we're going to do it at his studio. So basically I show up like the next day, and it's like me and Jelly Roll, who I hadn't met yet, but like his people knew my friends, and they were trying to get us together for so long. So like that alone was like, oh, this is cool how this is like we're meeting for the first
moment.
Yeah. And I was like, all right. And so I was like the first one there. Me and him just started like jamming on this idea, and then everybody else came in, and it was just like the most fun day ever. There was a bunch of comedians. My buddy Josh Wolf, who's now a good friend, Andrew Schultz, his team, Lee Bryce showed up, which was awesome. He's I don't know if you don't know who he is. He's a like big country star. And we wrote this song called "Open Her Up," and it was about opening the country back up. And we performed it that night at Zanies. And then Andrew was like, we got to shoot a music video for this. And so like 2 weeks later, we shot a music video down in Miami, and, you know, with his platform and featuring Jelly Roll. So with both of their platforms, we're like, oh, this could go viral like real quick. And it started when we released it, it started to, and then the powers that be like shadow banned it.
Interesting. Because
it was like anti-narrative or whatever. Yeah. But the music video is still on YouTube. The song's not on Spotify anymore or anything like that. But you can still see the music video. And it's a funny song. It was a blast to make. And but yeah, that was kind of like my foray into like the comedy world, which I've always been a fan of doing something related to comedy. And so Josh Wolf, who was a part of writing that song, was doing this like bi-monthly show in Nashville. That was like kind of a mix of stand-up comedy and like improv musical comedy. And he was like, do you want to do the shows with me? And I was like, yeah. So I started doing those with him, and we've done a bunch of them, and it's just a blast every time. So I've just like got like one foot in this world. Not so much that I do comedy, but just more that I know a handful of comedians. They've accepted me as a funny friend of theirs, and it's just a cool world to kind of have access to if something comes along down the line where I feel like I can lend a hand or involve them in whatever it is I'm doing. So, but yeah, my life is as wacky as it's kind of been. Like I've had really unique experiences that have made me become friendly with really interesting people in other parts of entertainment. So it's like stuff like that where I'm just like, all right, well, if I'm like doing this and I'm in these circles, like something's bound to happen, like with me. I would hope that like by ways of karma or whatever, that something an apex will happen where it's my turn to bring my talents to the forefront instead of being sort of like behind the scenes. So that's kind of where it feels like it's heading at this point. Like I'm already doing stuff where I'm on stage. So I just feel like the next logical step is to be like, just fully embrace it.
Yeah.
And be like, here's me as an artist. Like, all right, like this is what it is, and take it or leave it. So we'll see. I mean, I have to do it. I feel like it's my it's my duty at this point to at least and like just to myself, just do it for myself to just have the balls to put yourself out there, because that's the hardest part. And I really commend everyone that's done it, because I would have liked to have done this way sooner.
Yeah.
But whatever
it's intimidating.
It's very intimidating, especially in like the world we live in where it's just like instant feedback and there's, there's a lot of trolling and you kind of have to really have thick skin in order to, because it's not like everyone's going to like your stuff or, you have to kind of be willing to accept people that are not going to fuck with your shit. So,
yeah.
But I think, you just get to an age where you're just like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like none of this matters. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're all going to die. And like, might as well just give it a shot and live with no regrets.
Yeah.
Or as least amount of regrets as you can.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. So that's kind of, we'll see what happens. But yeah, Cherry Cola is the first song I want to put out, or the first song I'm going to put out.
Yeah. How'd you come about like the process of creating music for yourself? Like, did it start with just like, oh, I have these songs that I've just had in the bag, or is it like, I want to be this, I want to write these type of songs, I'm going to go approach this? Like, how'd you approach creating the music you have now?
A lot of it stems from just like writing sessions sometimes where, at least I think most of the stuff that I've chosen for my project has been stuff that I've started as like either a beat or a melody or idea or something, or maybe like a chorus or something, and then brought to another writer friend of mine. But yeah, in terms of like figuring out like what sounded good for my own style was just the music that came most naturally like out of me. Like I'm a rock guy, and I always, if I'm not like working with a purpose in terms of like, oh, this is like we're looking for like a female pop idea or like an R&B type idea. If I'm just like sitting down with the acoustic guitar or whatever and I just want to like jam, most likely I'll come up with something that I would want to listen to.
Yeah.
As me. So that's kind of how my songs came about, was just like, all right, what naturally am I like influenced by, and like how do I put my spin on all of those sort of influences? Like I'm a fan of all genres of music. Well, not all genres, but like all the popular ones. And I love 80s music. I love classic rock. I love 90s grunge. I love the like early 2000s boy band music. So it was just, I don't know. I feel like it's just a combination of all those things, but at its core, doing something that sounds like it would make sense coming from me.
Sure.
Like it would be weird if I put out music that was like sad boy, like emo stuff or whatever. Like I feel like the music that I am putting out and will continue to put out is just a reflection of like who I am, which is just like I like to have fun. I like high energy stuff for the most part, and I just want to have a good time. So I want to like continue to make music that at least evokes a more like head bopping response rather than like a let's sit and like digest this, which I mean, like there's plenty of music that I love that does that. I just don't know if that's, at least right now, what I'm capable of making. So I just want to rock pretty much, and I want other people to rock with me. So that's my goal, because I love live music. I love seeing bands that I grew up listening to, or artists that I grew up listening to, or even like new music, and just the live element, and seeing like, all right, how are you on stage? Like, what's your stage presence like? Are you like, is everyone engaged in this, like in what you're doing on stage, or is it kind of like you're like a vibe and like it's just cool, and people can be on their phones, like which is like good. I mean, which is what I saw with Coachella a little bit this year, just like music that didn't seem like it translated to a festival setting. Yeah, artists that do really well streaming and all that, I'm sure like tour and do well with their own shows, but like in a festival setting where you've got new listeners and people, like it just seemed like a lot of the music was a little drab and brooding, and it doesn't, people are getting drunk and they're on drugs and they're having fun, and like it's a weird tempo, slow. just like sad, like emo, emotional, like, oh, I'm all sad about my feelings, or heartbroken. It's like, all right, like
doesn't really work.
You can have fun, it's okay to like party and have a good time and be happy. So I don't think everyone has to be depressed. Like everyone struggles with it anyways. So I don't know. It's just, I'd like to see more like upbeat music coming out. And
Me too.
More like,
man, it's
just
time.
up. Yeah. You know, it's still there. I think, you know, Harry Styles, like fun tunes. Like there's a lot of people that like do it, but in terms of like the rock space, like country has kind of become the current rock scene, but it's not like, it's like a Nashville country thing. It's not like your prototypical classic rock or just more like universal rock sounding stuff, which is interesting because like all those guys, like everyone that makes big country music, they're huge fans of the stuff that wouldn't like rock, like, you know, they all grew up the same way I did.
Yeah.
It's just, I think being from where I'm from, I'm not going to be able to pull off the country guy thing. It's just not me. I'm influenced by it. Parts of my music, you can hear it, but
totally.
But it's not. It would be too contrived for me to just be like, all right, I'm putting out like a generic sort of Nashville sound.
Yeah.
I'm not going to break away from the pack by doing that. I don't think so. Well, I don't want to, at least. Maybe it would work, but if it would just, for me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that, like, you know,
you're just doing this.
Ass.
Yeah.
You know, you're not singing about what you should be singing about or whatever. So that's kind of, I just want to be different. I think my music's a little different, but it's still very like pop oriented. I think it's very catchy, and we'll see. You know, if the powers that be, you know, work in my favor, then maybe I could have a nice little career just making music and touring, because that would be ideal.
Yeah, I feel like that's coming. So what was like the process is pretty much just like, okay, I have some time off, I'm going to write some songs, and then at some point it's like I want to book a studio, or you're recording at home. What's kind of your approach to getting like the actual...
Yeah, once I got like the demos done, and I didn't write, I only like work with a few people on the songs, or most of them, whatever. It's not like there was a big group of people involved in like writing the songs. But basically I made the demos, and then I was introduced to a guy through a friend of mine, this dude Grady Saxman, who has kind of like a one-stop shop studio in Nashville. But he kind of is more like a factory where like artists will have a budget, they'll come in, he'll hire all the musicians, track it, like classic Nashville style recording and production. And so I met with him, and I was like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I'm producing this. And I'll play all the instruments other than drums. Grady's a great drummer, so he played drums. But basically, I was like, I have an idea of what I want this to sound like. I don't want to use like the classic Nashville sounds, you know, slide guitar and pedal steel, all that stuff. I was just like, I've got it in my mind of what I want it to sound like, so I'm just gonna need you to help facilitate like what I've got envisioned for these songs. And like, we locked in for a week and had like, you know, 18-hour days and just cranked it out. And we had a great working relationship and a great flow of things, and we just banged it out. And it was the best week of my life. It was the most fun I've ever had making music.
How many songs do you cut?
And we did 6.
Damn.
Yeah. We did 6 songs in 5 days. So basically the first 2 days were like pre-production days, where we kind of like mapped it out. And then the next days we just like went in, tracked drums, and then I think the last day or 2 I did vocals, and that's pretty much, that was it. It was, you know, it was very like how I would want to do it.
Yeah.
I think if I could do it any other way, I'd be like in a really, you know, like a very elaborate studio with a lot of cool toys, a big live room, and like really cool vibes, and be able to kind of like have everything dialed in. And like, oh, this is mic'd up, let's play that. And
sure.
Kind of, but it was
grow into that though
for my budget.
Yeah,
it was I was able to do that. So I think the given, you know, what I was able to work with, I think we got a really good product. So
yeah,
I'm just excited for other people to hear it. Like, my friends have heard it, other people, you know, and it's tough to play it for someone to be like, oh, what do you think of this? Like, and you're sitting there, you know, I'm more interested in someone hearing it in like, you know, Omaha, Nebraska or something. And
sure.
And like sending a DM being like, dude, I fuck with your music or whatever. Like, I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully that can happen.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
So now that you got basically the 6 songs recorded, finishing up getting those songs together, are you still living in like the songwriter world, or is that kind of like putting out to the side? Like what's the next like 6 months for you looking like?
Well, I want to use this project as kind of like an advertisement for me, like in a way, because I'm not with a publisher right now. I own all my stuff. I've written a bunch of songs in a bunch of different genres. I've had a couple hits. So my thought process was like, all right, why don't you put out your own music? Maybe that'll turn some heads and be like, oh shit, he sings like, like, or like he's got his own thing. And I want that to kind of be a springboard. In an ideal world, like I put out a song and then a big songwriter that I'm a fan of, like hits me up or says, I want to work on his stuff. Or,
sure.
Like that would be ideal. Or just, oh, I love your song. Like we should write sometime. Like kind of just use it as like a platform to just showcase what I'm currently doing. And if anybody wants to, partake, cool. But also if you don't want to, but like you're a fan of whatever, we can just write a song and, chase down an artist in town for that. So I'm just I just think it just adds fuel to the fire for where I'm at in terms of like starting this next chapter, whether it's like sign a new publishing deal or try to get a record deal or an admin deal with somebody. So I just think like it's best for me to be like, this is what I'm working on now. Plus I've got a couple things in the pipeline with a couple other artists that are signed to labels. So just kind of timing it all up to where like they've got music coming out and it's like, oh, I did that. And also here's my project.
Yeah.
Or like, here's my first song that I'm putting out. So yeah, I just think I've got it all on my side now. And like, I just want to keep the ball in my court until the time's right. And I just think by putting out my own stuff, at least it like shows that, okay, he's got some, he's got something else to offer other than just writing for other people. So
it's amazing how those doors start to open. Like I just for fun started putting out instrumental tapes like last summer and through the winter. And just the simple change of telling people like, hey, I have music that I've been making and I've been releasing it. And that opened up like, hey, I didn't know you were doing this. Let's get like songwriters in there to like start writing to your instrumentals and like, let's make stuff that's pitchable. And I was like, I never thought that this was, it's just like the way that it unlocks all these different things where people look at you a bit different from like, cause I've always been, oh, it's Nick Truth Studios guy. He's an engineer. He runs a studio, know, but to now break outside of that kind of like mold that people have seen me with. And it's just like so cool to be like, holy shit, this is like amazing how this is catching legs. And like I play shit for some of my favorite artists when they come in for sessions and they're like, yo, I love your stuff. And I'm just like,
and that only helps with your confidence too. You're like,
totally.
oh wow, like, okay, you really like that? You like this? Oh, okay, sweet. Like, all right. Yeah, me too. I like this too. But, well, I remember like Tish is a good example of that. When I first met Tish, she was just a songwriter, like, and she was just writing for other people. And then she started, putting herself out there as an artist, and like just the way people would treat her differently from when we used to go into a songwriting session as two songwriters to where we'd go in to a songwriting session as Tish the artist, and just how everyone would just kind of change the way they approached the situation or the session. Knowing that she's an artist, I don't know. So I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind. So like when I'm like, all right, I'm the artist. I'm curious to see if anything changes or if people, treat me any differently or take it more seriously.
It's like amazing to watch. The universe just opens those doors for you where you're kind of like, hey, I'm trying to get through this door. Like, can I get some help? And then all of a sudden somebody from the other side just like opens that shit up and you're just like, oh shit, thanks. And
all I could have gone through this door at any point. Oh, didn't know that was So whatever, I'm doing it. It's finally happening. It's funny because I was here like a year and a half ago and I was on my friend's podcast that has nothing to do with music or anything. They're just like my buddies that like to fuck around. And I was like, I'm putting out music. And that was like a year and a half ago. So
it was a weird time.
And I thought then I was like going to put out music like within the next few months from that time when I said that. And so it didn't happen. But I'm like, all right, now I can actually visualize. I've actualized it to a point where like
it's happening.
It makes sense now. And like, I've got like, I'm confident in what I'm playing for people. And like, I put my stamp of approval on it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, dude. I mean, everything I've heard so far, and like seeing like the shirts and the plans, and
I've
like
got some cool merch ideas that
it's exciting.
Yeah, it is fun. It's like you don't know what's gonna come of it. I think that's the most exciting thing too. Like, and then like if it gets you to a point where you have access to like, you have an idea and you can execute it.
Yeah.
Like almost immediately. That seems like a very enjoyable experience.
Totally. I mean, I've always been giving ideas to other people, and it's up to them if they want to take and use the idea. But I'll be like, "Oh man, you should do this," but it's not like a fully executable thing they want to go do. And I'm just like,
you don't have the big red button that says,
follow me here. I know what to do. You know, like I wish I did. I feel like with the experience of Bill at this point, it's like, hey man.
Well, there's definitely people that get to that point. Like there's definitely songwriters who are like, this is a hit. Like, here you go. Like,
you're welcome. Yeah.
And they can do that. So but I do think like by putting out my own music, at least like it might just turn some heads and get me to a point where I can then work with people that are constantly cranking out hits. And then you just don't know the how big it can get.
Totally.
So just very exciting to see. And but also it's like nothing could happen at all. It could completely just die in the water. Like, and then you just move on. But you realize it's like, all right, well, if you just know that that's a possibility, it's like, all right, well, if it happens, it happens. Like, who gives? Like, whatever. Life goes on.
Yeah, but it does, and I agree. Like, there is only so much you can do, but I do feel like you have a lot of experience to draw from to be like, okay, I'm going to release songs. I know a lot of people. I can go play shows. I can go out and like actually perform in front of people. Like you have things to test a lot more. Like I'm in a position where I'm like, I don't do that. So like I put shit out and I'm basically sending out like an email newsletter and posting shit on Instagram. And I'm just like, oh, it didn't go, but it's like, fuck that. Like that's hardly even putting an effort in, you know, like if you don't go put yourself in front of people to actually play your music and win over people to build something. It's kind of like, what the fuck do you expect?
Yeah. And I just know that I could win over people because I've done it in like the songwriter rounds that we do, or even when I'm on stage at the comedy club and I'm just riffing with my buddy Josh, and you get an immediate response. Yeah. So you can tell if someone is at least enjoying you on stage. So I know that I have that ability. I know that I can be at least entertaining to a point to where I can have you engaged in whatever I'm doing. I don't, I'm not going to blow you away talent wise or anything like that. I'm not the best singer, but like it doesn't, that has nothing to do with anything. I think it's more just like, can you engage people? Yeah. And are you going to be like, can you get them to kind of like tune out and just focus on you, which I do think I'm capable of doing. So
I think that is like the sole most important fucking thing. Yeah. Like if you can do that,
and you just got to own it. You just got to literally just own it. Be like, nah. And like, even if you fuck up or whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter. You just gotta just be unapologetically you and as authentic as possible, and just lay it on the line and just lay it out there and just see. I don't know. Yeah. So
it's pretty fucking exciting, man.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like just so. This is like it's like Christmas Eve almost, or like where you're kind of there's like a nervous excitement to what's to come. But yeah, I mean, we're finishing up the first single and we'll put it out hopefully in the next however long it takes to put out a song. I can see it like probably like end of June. Yeah. At least I want it to come out in the summertime though, because it's kind of a summertime sounding song. Yeah, like, I want people to be able to play this with the windows down. It's one of those. It's good, definitely good driving music.
Totally, I've been fucking playing it on repeat.
Yeah, that's what I think I make. I think I make driving music. Yeah, that's what my buddy said that too. He's like, your music is good driving music, which is like like the Eagles or like some of these just like classic bands that have stood the test of time. I'm not comparing my music to the Eagles by any means, but just music that like. It just puts you in a good mood, and you can
dude. It's like 7 a.m. radio on my way to work. Like we're gonna have a good day kind of thing. Where that's a huge fucking category, but it's really hard to actually get into that. But it's like, man, if you can be a part of people's like get up and go morning and like have some good radio play where that still actually matters, and people are like, holy shit, like what is this song? Like I want to fucking listen to this. Happy. Yeah, and
I don't know what it's about, but I like it. Yeah.
How you doing on time? I know I ran super late getting us here, so you got a split.
No, I mean I'm okay. What time is it? 4:45.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
So I wanted to circle back on like when you first came here, and you were getting into like working with Freddie, and you have like a publisher, and that like starts to probably be like the first time it's like now becoming real to be like a professional musician.
Yeah.
And
well, I didn't feel like a professional for a long time. Still really don't. I mean, a lot of times you have like imposter syndrome. A lot of people, I feel like, would agree with me on that. So the professional thing.
Well, you land like a actual like publishing company, and you're like, holy shit, I'm signed to something, and I'm working on music that
seems like it's getting a shot or something. Like, you're doing something, and it actually might turn into something with a credible artist or whatever. Yeah, that's always exciting to be like, oh, so and so cut your song, or like, oh, they've heard it, or it's on hold. Yeah, I've had that. But I think the majority of the time, it's like, I think with songs that I've had, it's you're working like directly with the artist or with someone who's directly involved with the artist. I don't think I've had too much success by just throwing songs into the void. Yeah, there's always been some sort of link between myself or another writer and the artist. So. What was the question?
Well, basically, like when you started with like getting signed to a publisher and things like became more real and more quote unquote like professional, and you get kind of like that stamp of like, hey, I'm actually like qualified to do this. And you start working with somebody like, and then now as you're years later from that, like, you prefer being in a situation where you're working with a publisher? You prefer being by yourself? Like, what kind of was the difference between the two for you?
Oh. I mean, my publishing situation wasn't exactly like the prototypical one where they've got like a calendar booked out. That was when I started going to Nashville. I was like, oh, people are like
efficient.
Yeah, or just like they had their calendars booked out months in advance, and I never had anybody to do that for me. So it was always kind of like, I don't know. And I'm not really the one to, I'm not good at like, hitting people up about. I'm like bashful in a way. So
sure, I can relate.
Yeah. So honestly, I think it hurt me immensely to not be in like a structured situation where it's just like, all right, show up at this time. You're working with X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And it's just like a numbers game.
Yeah.
My stuff has been very like few and far between, and it's just been like periods of like not really knowing what the fuck I'm doing with my life. So now it's like, at least with this, I feel like I've got the reins, and I've got much more like clarity in the direction of like what I want to do. And then like if it doesn't work out, then it's like, okay, I can now go sign a publishing deal with like whomever. I could probably do that. I feel like I could do that now as with my catalog, but it's more like let's try this first. And then if it doesn't really work the way we want it to, then like we can go back into the ecosystem of the songwriter world.
Do you have a favorite like memory session from that world? Like something that you still just look back on and you're like, holy shit, that was fucking awesome.
I mean, I got like working with Alicia Keys was really cool.
Crazy.
That was awesome. I got to work with her for 3 days.
Sweet.
And it was very intimate, and one of the cooler moments in my like songwriting career definitely was I think the second day I got to work with her. We're at her studio in New York, and we like had like a 45-minute conversation while we were eating lunch. Like just like I was like, what's it like to like be a world icon, and like you go to these countries and all, and like people you meet, and just like being in that world. And she was just so cool. Like she's from, I want to say she's from she's from New York, or like she lives in New Jersey. She's from the area and like kind of grew up around near me, but it was just like she was so normal about it. And then like after having this cool conversation with this like massive superstar, she's like, let's go into it was just me and her. She's like, let's go into the live room. And then we walk into the live room, and she's like, I'll go pick up that guitar over there. I really like that guitar. and then I picked this guitar up, and she's like, just play something like whatever you're feeling right now. Just start. And it was just like so organic and cool. I'm like, is this fucking happening? Like me and Alicia Keys just like vibing right now? And then that became a song, like, and so that was like a really cool,
amazing,
just like an A-list sort of experience to do, like, where it's like, oh wow, this is like you're really doing it. Like, people can't tell you that like this isn't like, as professional as it gets. Like you're literally in the room, the two of you, and she's an A-lister. So that was always a fun. I've always thought that as a fond memory. I'm trying to think what else has been cool. I'm like on the spot. I'm sure there's like been like
I know I hate those kind of questions too. You have a train wreck kind of thing that comes to mind?
A train wreck?
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, that's like all the time. That's all the time, especially when you're like, you'll get asked to work with just other writers, and it's not like everyone's not capable. It really just depends on just like the combination of people in the room and personalities, and totally. I remember I wrote a song with a guy who that week had the current #1 song in country, and you would have thought he was Joe Schmo from off the street that had no idea. Like there was nothing that came of just he and I sitting in a room together. But like that guy gets songs with plenty of other people, and so that happens, and you're just like, all right, it just didn't fucking happen today. Like, and I'm sure it's been on my end as well. So I think you kind of, I don't know, you just kind of gotta have a short memory with it.
Totally.
Especially the train wrecks.
Got to be able to laugh it off.
Well, just like, and also just be like, all right, let's call it. Like, it's not, we're running in circles here. It's just like, we're grasping at straws. So it's just, it is what it is. But then, for every one of those, or for every like 50 of those, you have like one session where you're like, this is the greatest day ever.
Totally.
Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
We just created a magic.
Yeah.
And so, it's like those days where you're like, that's why I do this.
Yeah.
Because you can't like put a price tag on it or anything. If it becomes a hit song,
yeah, you kind of
somewhat of a price tag on it.
It's not
but like, just like you can't just pull someone from off the street. Like not everyone gets to experience that.
Totally.
And they never will.
Yeah. It's really rare.
And so that's just like one benefit of doing this line of work. As crazy and as unpredictable as it is, it's still like, there are priceless moments that you get to experience that like just working a 9 to 5 just will never yield you ever. So I don't know. If you think about like the grand scheme of things and like what's really important, like I'm all about like experiences and just like listening to your intuition and your heart and doing things based off that, not out of like fear or insecurity or whatever, or playing it safe or whatever. And if it ends up biting me in the ass, we'll see. I'll be hopefully not wandering Hollywood Boulevard 20 years, but yeah, I don't know. There's no plan B. You just gotta just go for it, and that's what I've been doing for the past like 10 years, and I'm still doing it. I've been able to make a living this entire time, which is cool. So some years way better than others, but
I think that's one of the most underrated accomplishments is actually being like, hey, I've sustained being in this shit for a long time. Yeah. And like we all have, it's a very cycle wave, whatever based business where it's just like you catch good waves sometimes, you catch no waves sometimes. And you feel shitty about the no wave times and you have the best fucking time ever when you catch a high wave. But being able to actually sustain staying in it is always the thing to me where I'm just like, man, and honestly in any field when you realize like
still hanging around, still got it. Still chipping away.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's, stagnant or anything. It's just, maybe it's like you just need a certain period of time in your life to experience the lull.
Yeah.
In order to
slingshot back out of that.
And also like handle the high and be able to, be prepared for it and absorb all of it. And when it does happen, make the right decisions when you finally get to that point. So
yeah.
I feel like that's what this has all been building towards. It's just kind of like preparing myself for that big floodgate to happen. Because I do think when it does happen, when it does happen, I'll be prepared for it, and that's when I think things get real fun.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like literally just you get to dictate everything you want to do.
Yeah.
And not do, which is also a big fucking factor when you realize like, you do a lot of songwriting sessions, or for me, I engineer a lot of songwriting sessions.
You're just like pulling teeth. You're just like,
fuck man, why am I here?
Sucks. This is never going to come out. This song's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Why are we wasting time?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like to be putting your own music out, having a fan base, being able to pretty much do whatever you want, and the world's your oyster. It's like pretty much, you know, you can make it happen once the gates open.
Yeah,
it's pretty much up to you, I feel like. So
100%.
All you need is just a little spark, and just light it up. I don't know. That's all I want. Just give me the spark, and I'll throw some gasoline on it.
You still enjoying living in Nashville?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I've been here in LA for like 2 weeks now, and I lived here for 8 years. But I do think LA is like back. Like it feels like
there's a new thing coming.
It just feels good again. Like when I came here last time, it seemed like it was still like, you know.
What was the time frame?
It was like November of 2021.
Yeah, it was dead. It was feeling like this place was dead.
Yeah, it was still COVID-y and like all kind of shut down. Now it seems like it's back to normal. So I do like it here, but it's so goddamn big. Like I realize it's just so huge, and I love I find myself missing Nashville. Like I'm excited to go back, and I like that being home base for me. I've realized that I'm just gonna do what I did with Nashville when I was living here.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna flip it and just like do quarterly trips here, and make Nashville home base. Just because it's just I like the way it's laid out. I love my friends there. I love the community of musicians and songwriters, the accessibility to everything. It just seems like it's more fit for my needs, at least right now.
For sure.
I'm not counting out ever coming back here. I just feel like
if
I do come back here, I'd like to be loaded.
Yeah.
And like really
you kind of need to be to really enjoy being here.
Yeah, to like enjoy the lifestyle. I feel like you need to have a lot of cash. So I'm going to try to make the money outside of here and then maybe one day move back, but I don't know. I love Nashville's dope. Like it really is. Like it's a cool place. It's got something about it that I can't really put my finger on, but I don't know. It's got soul. It's got more soul than LA in my opinion. So I don't know. There's a lifeblood to it that I like. So I can see myself sticking around there for some time. New York City would be great to live too. I mean, if I could live anywhere, I'd probably live in New York.
I feel like New York was first to die of like the main major cities where it was just like, whoa, this used to be like the Mecca, and now it just feels like a ghost town in terms of like there isn't like underground art scene, at least that I was aware of.
Music. Like when I first started getting into songwriting, like it was on the tail end of people still living in New York. And then like basically the next year, like everyone had moved to LA. Yeah. And now it seems like everyone's moving out of LA and going to other places. So, but yeah, I don't know. I like Nashville. It's cool. It's very cool. And it's like ever growing too. Like they're really like, it's rapidly getting better. So big fan. Big fan of Nashville.
Well, shit, dude. Let's put a bow on it. We got Cherry Cola.
We got Cherry Cola for sure.
Come in June. I'm going to force your hand to just commit to it's coming in June.
Yeah, exactly. However long it takes to go through the DSPs, but I can't see it being too much longer.
Yeah.
So
super fucking exciting, man. Thanks for coming in to do this.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
I always love doing this with people I've known for a long time and just feel like, man, I really have never actually sat and had like a thorough conversation. There's so much to like this person I don't know about, but I like this person so much.
I'll come back again and I can expound on a bunch of different things and yeah, it's always interesting having like the microphone and the cameras and trying to like completely be yourself. So I didn't shoot as much from the hip as I usually do, but get a few drinks in me. I'll come back on this podcast a little buzzed.
There we go.
And we'll have a good one. Yeah. After the song comes out, we'll do another one, part 2.
Sick.
Yeah.